Believers, in this video I want to talk about enablers. Now, about enablers, first thing first, you have many videos online already by psychologists, by narcissist survivors who mention the topic of enablers, but they remain on the psychological level. And I, as an anthropologist and a sociologist, I can clearly see that the topic of enablers needs to be addressed from an anthropological and sociological level. Anthropology is a discipline that investigates and researches the philosophy of culture, so the foundations of culture. That's what an anthropologist does. I do that. As sociologists, I'm a sociologist too, they look at the group dynamics in a society. So they look at how groups behave. Now, from an anthropological point of view, enablers are necessary for every society to operate. Because without enablers, you don't have a society. From a sociological point of view, people become enablers because they have short-term benefits that they get out of it. Let me give an example. This is a parable. Let's say you have a Jantien. I'm making up a name. Jantien is a real Dutch name, but okay. Jantien is a 22-year-old student. She's about to graduate. And she grew up in a household where the mother is bossing around the household at expense of the authority of the husband. So her father is a simp, as they would call it in the streets. He allows his wife to just walk all over him, and the wife is this crazy feminist type that can't hear that she's wrong. Jantien grew up in that household, and she became the target of her mother's rage because her mother failed in life. Her social relationships were a joke. People only hanged around her because she was well educated and she had this reputation as this successful feminist. But on a personal level, people really didn't want to deal with her because she was quite difficult. So now she blames this on her daughter. Now, Jantien, while growing up, was placed on a lot of pressure, and she used this pressure to perform at school. She had the best grades, and she was very soft and sweet when talking. But internally, she was breaking down. Now, here you have a dysfunctional household when one of the children takes the charge of the dysfunction, of the sexual dysfunction of the parents. But then, where this happened, the mother of Jantien is well known. She has slept with various guys before she met this current husband of hers, so people know who she is. The husband also has a job somewhere as a manager. So those parents came out of a community and they met each other in a community. So their sexual union happened in a context, a community. So people were aware, even before Jantien was born, that those people were not competent to be in a sexual relationship. Yet the community endorsed them getting married, and the community endorsed them having children. The community, when they saw that while Jantien was growing up, that she had signs of trauma, they even blamed Jantien for not being a good child to her parents, just so that they don't have to deal with the parents. So the environment enabled the dysfunction of the parents. Why? Because if the environment had to intervene in that household, then you also have to give an account why they didn't intervene in other households. And then they have to face themselves also, because if they themselves operate in toxicity, yet want to intervene in toxicity of someone else, that's going to backfire on them. So the short-term benefit of the households around was tolerate violence in that household, say that it's their privacy, their lives, blah, 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 and that Jantien is being harmed by it, well, that's bad. We're the ones allowing it to happen, so we are guilty, but just pretend that we have nothing to do with it. That's the sociology behind it. People get a short-term benefit of keeping ease in the community. They would go to parties and weddings and funerals together with Jantien's parents, knowing full well that those people were abusing their daughter. The daughter, at the other hand, it was too overwhelming for her to admit that the community was neglecting her. That's why she had so many issues. Now, What if young teen later gets involved with a guy and everyone around can see that the guy is a narcissistic abuser, but young teen is so under his spell? For people to intervene, that means that they would now have to tell young teen that that guy is not right for you. And also to show young teen you have issues that you need to deal with. And once young teen admit, okay, there are issues indeed, then also people have to realize, okay, but if young teen is 22 years old and she has these issues, where did they come from? Oh, it was enabled by the community. So anyone at this point that intervenes will have to deal with the whole package. And nobody wants to do that. So people cheer on her getting involved with this Andrew. Let's call the guy Andrew. That's how the cycle begins again. Her parents were defective, the community enabled it. Now she has to become defective, not by her own choice, but she's the victim. But instead of the community intervening and forcing her to look for help, the community enables the cycle continues. Now she becomes the narcissistic victim by her partner. She was a narcissistic victim of the community, including her parents. Now she becomes the narcissistic victim of her partner. And the new generation, that means her peers, that enable it. And when she is in this toxic relationship, people can look at her and think, whoa, how can she put up with that? She has 2 master degrees. She is a very smart woman. She comes from a household where the mother was a top feminist. How could she allow this to happen to her? Now people can get narcissistic supply by looking down on her. So they enable her to be harmed. Even she's not, and she's not even aware how bad the situation is, but they take advantage of this weakness of hers so they can feel good about themselves. That's the benefit they get. And because everyone else feels at ease, that they're not like young teen, this ease generates a bond between them and other people. So you have marriages, you have families, and even companies that keep themselves together at the expense of young teen, because everyone can look down on young teen. And this looking down on young teen generates a high mentally, and because everyone shares in this high, they have a bond. Just like the drug addicts. They get their high together, that's the bond they form with one another. So the narcissistic violence against young teen is the high that keeps many social dynamics intact. And that's the sociological benefit people get from it. The anthropological explanation is that people don't want to face themselves. Because once they face themselves, that society has to change dramatically. And people don't want to face this dramatic change. So understand the following here. An enabler is someone who doesn't want to face what's going on. Why not? Because facing what's going on requires action on their part. And that action will require them to self-reflect and to be honorable. But if they are not honorable because they just want to be left alone, then intervening will reveal their hypocrisy and their double-mindedness. Nobody wants this to happen. Nobody wants to be exposed like this. Because once they're exposed like this, their reputation is gone and they'll be shunned by everyone. So nobody wants to be shunned by society, by the community. That'll be quite dramatic. If you're shunned by the community, you can't get a job, people don't want to deal with you, and it's going to be very traumatic. Some people even become suicidal because they're shunned by the community. Because human beings are designed to be connected to other human beings, whereas we are social creatures. So it's understandable nobody wants to be shunned. On the other hand, we're also responsible for the safety of our communities. As individuals, we belong to communities and we are responsible for contributing to safety in our communities. So the moment we don't contribute to safety in our communities, we become the co-perpetrators of the perpetrators in the community. For example, if you have 2,000 police officers in a city, and 12 of them are racist officers that shoot people of color, just like that, if those other 1,988 police officers don't take a stance against those 12 police officers, then you have 2,000 racist police officers. Even if the majority of them are not literally racist, they are also racial because they are enablers of those 12 that are around. That's how you need to look at the situation. Enablers don't want to face their own vulnerabilities and weaknesses. They just want compensation through violence. And society is a structure of violence that they hold on to. So they rely on violence for their mental stability and their daily ease. For them to admit this, that they are codependent on violence, they don't want to go there. So whenever the external violence they rely on happens, they need to excuse it. Because if they admit that it's violence that they enable, then they are showing how dark-minded they are. And here's the thing, no human being can be openly evil and at ease. I don't care how psychopathic or how narcissistic one is. They need to have a justification in their mind for them to be at ease. Because if their own mind cannot justify their attitude, their mind becomes disturbed. So evildoers need to have some self-justification for them to remain at ease. That's why they need to blame the victim. Look, if you're in a supermarket and suddenly a whole gang comes in with guns and they threaten people, and one of the robbers begin to sexually arouse you and the rest doesn't do anything, listen, they're all under fire. They all can lose their lives. They also have families, they also have children, they also have parents. And so they're being forced to look what's happening to you. That's not enabling. If just one guy with a small gun and you have a whole crowd of people, they can easily take the guy down, but it still happens, then they're enablers. So you also need to look at the context. When people are children, they can become enablers if they don't reflect back and repent. So if you have a kindergarten where one of the children was picked upon by the adults, of course the other children get alarmed because they don't have much option as children. But once they become teenagers, you must reflect and think, oh, hold on a minute. We were forced to comply with the victimization of one of our own. I don't do this. The moment they don't want to face what happened, that they were forced to participate in the victimization of one of their own, the moment that happens, now they become enablers. An enabler is someone who doesn't want to face their own dependence on the Most High. They don't want to face their own vulnerabilities and weaknesses. So they want compensation. And this compensation comes through violence. And even if they're not directly violent themselves, they become indirectly violent by relying on violence. So everyone that relies on society is an enabler, one way or the other. Are they all bad people? No, some are enablers unaware. They don't know any better. That's how they were raised. For such people, you can pray, decree, declare, and you can guide them out of this toxic agreement. But then you have enablers who are fully aware that they are participating in evil, but they keep on looking for self-justification so that they don't have to repent. That second type of enabler, they're dangerous. They are delusional. The enabler is not aware they are the enabler, is a naive individual that once you show them the light, they'll think, no, I'm out of here. But the one who just doesn't want to face anything, just persists in wanting this ease and relief that the collective violence brings them, they justify the collective violence just so they can get this ease and relief. They are addicts. And they go very far to pursue their ease and relief. You challenge that ease and relief, they turn on you. They will sell you out. So, just understand the following. Worldly people, I'm not talking about when they're children. I'm talking about when they're in their teenage years and older. Worldly people are enablers one way or the other. Whether they are unconscious enablers, means that they're being used without them being aware of it. And when they're being used, they're also a semi-victim also. But the moment they become alert and they have the opportunity to do something about it without being harmed, because you can't do something about violence without harming yourself. But the moment they don't even want to do that, they don't even want to take action against violence without harming themselves. Look, if there's a robbery going on, I'm not telling you just jump into the robbery and you can be shot. I'm not telling you to do that. Or if there's a domestic violence, I'm not telling you just knock on the door and address the violent men. I'm not telling you to do that and endanger yourself. But the moment people can do something about violence, they can do something that comes with solutions, and they don't even want to do that, then they are delusional. They become delusional cowards. And delusional cowards eventually become physically violent cowards. Such people will do the dirty job by taking you out when you confront society. You have people, and this has been going on throughout history. It also happens today. You have people that stood up against their narcissistic parents, and some bartender somewhere who's in a community heard about this, and this bartender was offended because this bartender always tolerated negativity from his parents, and because that he was praised, so he's codependent on the praise of society, and now you have a guy who plainly said, I'm not taking this BS. The courage of this guy reflects on the whole community, and everyone has to face the darkness. And when people have to face darkness that they don't want, they escalate. So there will be more domestic violence, there will be more altercations of physical violence publicly, because people have to deal with something they don't want to deal with. So this bartender realized, okay, There's going to be more bar fights. There's going to be more arguments around there, and I have to face that. I don't want to face anything. I just want to be here, do my thing, without having to be responsible for anything, and just be left alone. But because of this arsehole over here who disturbed the peace, now I need to deal with stuff. So this bartender becomes so upset that he decides to take action against this guy, and then that guy is murdered by this bartender. And later, police finds out that the bartender killed the guy. And what's the motive? The motive is the bartender was a coward, just wanted ease. So he became a participant in the collective violence. And now because collective violence was challenged, he was challenged also. So he took it as a personal offense and he killed the other individual. You have people like that. They will turn on you. They will hate you. They will seek to put you 6 feet under. They will seek to take your life and to end your existence. Why? Because you do what's right for you. There are people that will turn on you for doing what's right for you. Let alone when you do what's right for others. When you do what's right for you, I'm talking objectively what's right, not what you feel that's right or what society thinks is right, but when you do objectively what's right and healthy for you, are a lot of society that will become your worst enemy. Why? Because they don't want to face anything. They are addicted to the validation and relief of society. And because that ease and relief works for them, they don't want to be disturbed. If it's disturbed, you need to go. That's how a lot of folks are. And I would dare to say that the majority of enablers on the earth are in that category, the delusional cowards category. Some are still in the naive enabler category because they don't know any better. Many of us were in that category also. But the moment someone crosses into the delusional cowards category, I'm telling you, they are dangerous. They will even pretend to be your friend just to set you up to be killed. For example, if there is a female professor at a university that can't stand you, just keep murmuring about you because this female professor is out of her mind, she is dumping on a student, then you may have other fellow students of your own year that see it happening, and because they don't want to become the target of that crazy woman's rage, they now are going to befriend you, and then they're going to gossip about you behind your back just to give fuel to the rage of that crazy professor, so that the rage of the crazy professor is increased against you. You are the ones ending up being set up to leave university, not able to finish your degree or whatever, and they can continue in ease. Nobody notices them. Such things happen. Or maybe at work, that you have the boss that is out of his mind, and you have other coworkers that are setting you up in harm's way so that they are at ease. And you may have all crowds doing this. I'm telling you, believers, when the worldlings persist in darkness, when they persist in lack, I'm telling you, they become delusional. And delusional people are dangerous people. Okay? Well, that's it for now. Keep on agreeing with Christ and be at peace.